So that's fine. All right. Hello, everyone. I hope you all could hear me well.
Yeah, yes, Vivek. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Hi,
Perfect.
good morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for confirming that. Yep. So today we'll start with our demo, and this would be specific to HL7. And to understand this HL7 better, let me just go ahead and share my screen. So just confirm once you see that. I've just started sharing. Okay. Do you all see my screen now? It should be now.
No, not yet, Avik.
Okay. I hope you should be able to see that now.
Yes, Vivek. We can.
Yes,
Perfect.
yes.
Perfect. Thank you for confirmation. All right. So first of all, let me just take you to the history of HL7. Okay. So HL7 is nothing but a protocol. So it's not a. I hope this is visible to you all, or you want me to zoom in? I can do that too. Okay. So HL7 is nothing but it is a protocol. All right. And this basically works on OSI model. Now, you must be knowing what is OSI. OSI is nothing but it's called Open System Interconnection. So this HL7 basically works on top of the layer. So OSI has 7 layers. Okay. So 7 layers are like physical layer, data link layer, network layer, right? Then we have transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, and then we have application layer, right? So application layer is something where we would be needing that HL7 to connect with the systems. Now, what HL7 does and why it is important? So the reason is it is being adopted across the healthcare. So it is one of the most demanded protocol that is used in order to transform, exchange their clinical data, their HIS data, or their SDOS data. You might be hearing me saying some jargon, so don't worry on that. You would be getting the detailed information throughout this training, what all terminology that we use and why it is important in order to understand the healthcare as well as HL7 protocol in more deeper and fundamental information. So these are important to understand why this has been evolved and this is being used now. So HL7 again, it has been evolved. Before that, everything was in paper, right? So like in India, so we are generally getting our prescriptions, right? So prescriptions are nothing but a provider note in US healthcare. So provider note is nothing but like a doctor prescription. So let's say if any patient has a fever, right? Once he, once doctor check the patient, behavior, the pre-checks, what's the age, what's the weight, what's the BP, then he go ahead and start with the actual encounter. Now, encounter is again a word or terminology that is being used in healthcare. It's nothing but the appointment encounter when patient actually meets to the doctor during the appointment time, that's called encounter. So provider notes is nothing but the prescriptions that has the detailed information about the patient, the just the prerequisites like BP, right? The
Yeah.
weight.
Vivek,
Mhm.
sorry for interrupt. Yeah, we guys are from like medical coding background, which we know the everything about what is
Okay,
provide.
okay. Mhm. All right, perfect. Thank you for confirming that, Sadev. I was thinking of taking care of end to end, so that's fine. Now, so HL7 is nothing but it's just a protocol that basically used to exchange the data from one system to another system. So let me take you to a small information. So what happens here? There is an application called PM. So PM is nothing but practice management. Okay. So What this does, this basically take care of patient location, patient directory, provider directory, everything. So this would be having the detailed information about a hospital. So let's say this is a hospital. Hospital name is ABC, for example. So what basically this does, there is a receptionist. So let's say there is a receptionist who is actually taking care of the appointments. Now, this appointment is nothing but a basically initial check-in of the patient. Now, what happens here? Patient comes in, patient go to the hospital and register himself herself with the name. So as soon as the patient is registered, there would be an event triggered. So that event is nothing but HL7 event. So HL7 event is nothing but it has the detailed information about the patient. So it would be triggering ADT patient information. So ADT caret A04. I will come to that what these are and why it is used. But first understand the flow, then you'd understand what HL7 is. So once we get this registration, the patient would then trigger to a system. So this system is nothing but integration engine. And this is one of the power tool that has been used across the healthcare market in order to exchange the data electronically rather than saving data into a piece of paper that I was referring earlier. Now, the evolution has been brought into a speed. Now, HL7 has been evolved much, and they are introducing FHIR, which is again a evolve mode or REST API mode of HL7, you could say. Now, what this integration engine does, this actually takes care of entire specification. So let's say you are working for a company called Allscripts, right? So Allscript has the registration of this patient. This patient name is Kim, for example. So Kim Han is the patient. She does register herself there, and an event has been triggered called ADT caret A04. So this arrow that you see, this is called caret or hat. So in HL7, the pronunciation is like that. ADT is nothing but admission, discharge, transfer. So there is an event. Since Kim Han registered herself here to the hospital ABC with the tool called Allscript, they registered and then this has been transferred over to a EMR system or EHR system. So EMR is nothing but electronical medical record. EHR is just the evolution of the same EMR, which is called electronic health record. Now let's say you are working or maybe you are connecting with a vendor called Cerner. So Cerner is the vendor. Now this entire area, so this entire area is located into one location. Okay. So let's say this entire area is located into one location. And this location could be into the somewhere in US, for example, Philadelphia, right? So let's say it's Philly. So in Philadelphia is a state where this hospital is established, but this hospital is also available into a New York location, right? So in order to send this data, they need something electronically, right? We have emails, we have, notes, we have a lot of things that could be used in order to treat the patient better, right? Because patient would be paying at the same time, patient would be, membered or engaged with one of insurance team, right? Like let's say Medicare, Medicaid, BCBS, UHG. Now, why HL7 is important? This would be very much helpful to trigger the data across the system, not just with this EMR. Let's say we have multiple system here, right? Uh, let's say the same data would be triggered to, for example, a different vendor. Let's say this is a lab or LabCorp. So this is one of the renowned lab in US, or maybe you could consider Quest. So what happens if patient has some fever but doctor also want to check whether she has some issue with their blood? Let's say there is an issue with the blood test that has to be done, right? Like let's say typhoid is there, so that has to be triggered to a lab. Again, this would be triggered as HL7 event, and this event would be ORM caret O0 O01. So O is nothing but order entry. So what basically they are handling here is the same system. If you remember this, only one system is actually responsible of knowing this patient. But due to this HL7 profit, this entire property of that patient has been triggered across the two system. Now these two system may be interconnected with this in future if they want to. What this would do, this would be helpful for them to create an ecosystem. So these three system will create an ecosystem of having HL7 event with the same patient. So what this would handle, this will handle the issue of getting duplicate patient record. Okay. Now I was saying about ADT caret A04, ORM caret O01. These are nothing but just an event. They basically work with component separator. These component separators are like you would be having some pipes, you would be having some caret, you would be having some ampersand. So these would basically take care of some certain fields. Now consider this as an envelope. Okay. So this is, for example, this is an HL7 envelope. This has a list of patient. At the same time, HL7 messages. So messages are used as event. So this is whatever it has been sent using this certain protocol. This basically triggered as HL7 message. Message is what type? Of ADT type. ADT of what type? A04. So A04 is nothing but a patient new registration or new patient entry, you could consider. New patient entry. So what this is mean, like a patient, this patient was not available initially into their database, right? So what they are doing, they're actually registering this Kim Hun patient with their with her first name, last name, date of birth, gender, her SSN number, and whatnot, even her insurance information, and then this would be triggered across to the multiple system just to understand, hey, we got a new patient and she has some problem. She had done some previous checkup. Please go through this. And this would be triggered to a vendor. So this would again, maybe a doctor who is staying in New York is using Cerner tool, for example. So they would be able to see the same data, but with the two different entities like Allscript and Cerner. They are two different companies, right? They may have their own different tool on their way of behavior, but HL7 is globally accepted exchange format. So it can never be changed. If you are sending patient data in PID segment, it can never be changed. It would have to be followed with the same strategy, with the same element, with the same structure and architecture. So this is again a short description that you see here with the understanding of HL7 flow and why it is important. It is important so that the same information without editing, without changing can be triggered across to the multiple vendor. Second profit, it is fast. It is fast not as much as FHIR, but fast in the sense of carrying data, sending it across into a paper, and then couriering it to the different entity or to the different hospitals. So this is important to understand the concept of HL7. Now, HL7 has multiple events, multiple data, multiple fields, and multiple segments. I will come to that. Before I would take if you guys have any questions. Please go ahead and ask it. Am I going so speed, fast?
Yes,
Just let me
Vivek.
know.
I have one question.
Okay.
Do we need to learn any coding related things like Java for this HL7?
That's a very good question, Sanjeev. So yes, I mean, if you're working as a implementer, if you're working as a support, you need to know a basic I could say a basic syntaxes, the conditions, right? But whoever is working here as an integration engineer or interoperability expert or SME, which is nothing but subject matter expert, he or she need to know the coding. So coding can be in any method. So I will come to that, but I will definitely answer these questions later. Any other question that I have today so far, except Sanjeev's question?
We are good.
Perfect. Yes, Ade, please go ahead.
No, we are good. Yeah.
Perfect. So let me answer the Sanjeev's question first. Yeah. Now, I mentioned just the IE word here, right? So this IE is nothing but interoperability engine or integration engine. Whatever you could say, meaning is same. It basically does actual exchange of data, right? Exchange of data into ask specs. Specs is nothing but specification. So when I say specs, when you are converting your data from all script using integration engine to Cerner in order to get the same data populated into their EMR. So let's say you have an application and the first field that has to be added by the user is his first name. But in Cerner, you may have some different field that has to be added at first. For example, the patient ID, right? So in order to handle that certain conflict, we introduce an integration engine because there would be a scenario where you'd get multiple changes on the fields. They may do, I mean, for example, all scripts is requiring your first name, last name, date of birth, gender. But Cerner just need an ID in order to register that patient. That should be fine. You can use any XYZ name. That should be fine. But ID should be unique. So that's how the conflicts come into the market. Now, considering the same, we have given another opportunity to the market. That opportunity is called creating a solution. So, whoever is solution architect or solution engineer or integration engineer, they would be responsible of knowing programming codes because the code that you'd be using in order to change this data is because of these tools. So, JavaScript, you need to know Java. If you want to go with Python, you can go with that Python, or else you can go with a separate programming code, which is ObjectScript. Again, this is very much demanded. This is new. No one knows, but whoever knows InterSystem, they must be knowing about ObjectScript. I will come to that, but understand the code. If you know JavaScript, it's fine. If you know Java, it's again very much better. If you know Python, it's global good. If you know object scripts, somehow, somewhat, you would be entitled as architect of object script. The reason being, this certain tool is there is multiple tool that basically works on object scripts. Again, this is nothing but a programming language that basically does your all ops concept, handle the thing, manipulate it, change it, and load it to a database. So how you do it? So this tool would actually allow you to modify that and change this. Now, fortunately, you would be having one session again within this entire course of session that we'd be having, following sessions. It would be covering. I would be covering almost all type of messages that is being used into healthcare. At the same time, you'd also know a concept of coding and interoperability glimpse. So I would be using Mirth Connect that would be used to transform data, manage data, filter data, and trigger data. Now, I was saying about integration engine. So integration engine has multiple vendors. So these multiple vendors are up to you, so they have their costs. So in our cloud, we have AWS, right? We have Azure, we have GCP. In the same way, in integration engine, we have Mirth Connect. It is again, this has been acquired by NextGen, so now this has been changed to NextGen Mirth Connect, but basically it names is Mirth Connect. Then we have InterSystem, which is again very good and very powerful. We have Rhapsody, we have Ensemble, we have, there's so many options. We have CorePoint. There's Cerner product which is called FSI. It is nothing but foreign system interchange. So these are integration engine tools which would help you to do this certain part and transform the data and send it across. So let's say in ADT message, so consider this is an example. So I have one sample message for you all. So I hope you see this, right? So this is again a sample message of HL7, right? And this has multiple segments. So this is called segment and this is called fields. So these are all fields. Now, whatever you see, this is called component separator. Okay. This is called hat. This is called squiggle, or you could say tilde. You could say a backslash or slash. and you could use this ampersand. So these are nothing but a important attributes that is taking part into each and every fields. If you see, this hat is here. If you see, this ampersand is, you must be having somewhere. If not, then I can do it. So let's say I can use here ampersand. I'm using any random number. So what I'm saying, this certain field has two values. One is this and this. So this is called nothing but ampersand, which actually gives you a option to feed multiple values to the same field. That's how you could utilize this HL7, right? There's definitely a lot to learn. And yeah, this is important, and this would give you a huge boost into your career if you know HL7. But to answer your question, Sanjeev, if you want to know and if you want to go for architect role, it is very much important to understand the code, understand the logic and the requirement. And again, this requirement would be given by your business team. It could be business analyst, it could be project manager, it could be client manager, success manager, whoever it is, whoever is working on these attributes, they would be responsible of giving you information on this, what needs to be changed, what's need to be tweaked, and where exactly that has to be changed. So for example, to answer this transformation, so suppose this is the all script, and let's say let's make more centric. So patient name was Kim Han, right? So I'm just making that change. I hope this is visible to you all. You want me to zoom in?
Yeah, it is visible.
Perfect. So for example, this patient has been triggered from all script, right? And but when it comes to Cerner, they want same message. If you remember, this is ADT cat A04, which means this is a new patient admission called Kim Han. Okay. And what I'm doing, I'm going to use the same information to send across to multiple systems. So for example, in Cerner, I want this MSH3 could change to MSH6, and MSH4 could change to MSH5. So this is the transformation works. So when you do coding, you would be able to change these values into the word, or into the one that you would be needing, or the one that is required in order to get your transformation done. So what this does, so this would be basically specific to the sending application, sending facility. So from where this has been sent, from which exact location it has been sent, what is the receiving application or receiving facility. So this is again itself, it has detailed information. Again, I would give you some scripts that would have this detailed information, and you would have this as a specs to memorize it, or whenever it is required, you can refer that guide and you can understand, okay, this field is something. Okay, I understand. This would carry a receiving application name. This would carry a trigger event. This would carry a version of that HL7 message. This would carry a timestamp when that has happened. So MSH is nothing but a message header. So this has a detailed information about a patient. Her name is Kim Han, and entire detail that you see, it's related to her, nothing else. That's the reason it creates a application layer. I'm not doing any coding here. I'm just memorizing the data from this and replicating the same data across multiple vendors in order to tweak it, transform it, and make it to the specification that this receiver needs. I am using integration engine, and they have multiple vendors, which is this. So let's say you have some budget constraint. Let's say I am running a company and my company has a budget. I don't want to go with InterSystem. They are very costly. I don't want to go with CorePoint. I want to go with Mirth Connect because this is very user friendly and easy to understand in terms of newbies or whoever is new, he or she doesn't know anything about the coding. It would be very much good for them to understand the Mirth Connect. This has pretty much depth information about the transformation filter and very user friendly UI. At the same time, you would be seeing that data, how this has been converted, how this has been logged, and lot other things. So our courses, whatever would be covered, it's not just the HL7, it would be having end to end information from where this has been sent, why this has been needed. I mean, why the HL7 is evolved at first place. Starting from there, US healthcare, coming to that, you would be jumping into HL7, After HL7, you'd be having another session into the integration engine that would let you know, that would help you to understand how data moves, how data takes the decision, how data is important to move it, and what all field you need it. So let's say they have two different databases, right? So for example, this is one database and this is different database. Again, this is outside of the this environment, because this is actually their in-house database. This database would not have access to this system, this system, this system, and this system too, but they are their own internal database. So let's say from this message, the database has taken the patient first name, last name, or patient name, I'm just taking it, date of birth, and address, for example, right? But this database has registered the ID, registered the patient name definitely, and then just the SSN number. So you see, two different database, two different systems, same message has been triggered, but they are importing only the important information or necessary information as per their environment or as per their specs. So these are the specs that actually decide or give them a guidance or a route, that hey, just go ahead and look for only these two or three fields, not all the data that you get here. Because you don't need data that is not needed, right? You need data that is going to be useful for inciting or making some decision out of it, right? That's the reason it is important for you to understand the concept of data trend, data transformation, and how HL7 is helpful here in order to make the decision on. So let's say once we have this data, what this would do, I mean, again, this is again an in-depth architecture that I'm trying to do here, but I think since we have already crossed the time, but yes, this is basically connected to a BI tool. That BI tool would have some sort of information, and that would help you to understand and take a decision on the patient, whether that patient has some chronic condition. Let's say a patient is having some oncology treatment, right? Let's say a cancer. So that treatment has to go smooth without any issue. At the same time, budget is a constraint, right? Whatever amount that we have invested, as a we as a payer or we as a insurance team, we don't want to go for the budget which has a limitation or capping for that patient or per patient. That's where this data is very much crucial, and you would be proud once you jump into this environment, because you are the one who is actually generating this data for the user, who actually takes that decision and making some AI ML model implementation on top of the data that you serve there. So this data feed is very important. That's the reason it is used and being adopted by the multiple vendors, and they have multiple competitors based on the use case, budget, and so on and so forth. Okay. Any question? Sanjeev, I hope I was able to address your question that you had.
Yes, yes. So we need coding knowledge also, but not that much extent, I think.
Yeah,
Am
let
I
me
right
tell
with
you,
this?
that is correct. That is correct. So when it comes to coding, by covering our course, I think you should be able to, I mean, you would have that courage automatically, even if you
Yeah.
don't need it would give you the idea how the coding is needed and the tool. Why this tool? So always remember, if there is any introduction of tool, that simply means they want you to low code or almost no code. That's the reason we have multiple ETL tools, right? ETL tool is nothing
Yes.
but just to extract data, because they don't want to code you better, right? They just want you to do the process better. That's the reason these tools would help you to understand the process, make the data trend. And definitely, if you want to do a lot of custom data changes, you could use the JavaScript, ObjectScript, whatever the language you want to prefer with. I would suggest to go with Python or JavaScript, because these are one of the largest adopted by the tool that you see here, right? So these tools are mostly use Python and JavaScript. So if you know this, again, Java, JavaScript, both pretty much same, but JavaScript is just evolution of Java, which is used to make a framework on top of the application. So since we would be working on the application layer, it would be important to understand the code, because let's say you're working as a senior engineer, for example. Okay, so
Yes.
you may have to do some lot of fixing or optimization to the code, because you working for a company and you want your company to grow, not to get some escalations on tech dev. Tech dev is nothing but just the getting escalation on the codings, right? So do better, understand things, and this would definitely boost your career, at the same time boost the organization growth on the higher note. just to make sure whatever data, whatever client that you have, you are serving them better solution, right? That keeps you a unique. And that's why we have multiple, the market trends. We have Capgemini, we have Infosys, we have, some startups as well, right? But startup also has multiple clients. That simply means they are serving better, right? So
Yeah.
always there is a scope and learning. But yes, coding is definitely important if you're looking for a longer growth. But yes, if you want to know the architecture, coding is not much required. But yeah, the course that I would be covering, that would force you, or not force you, that would please you to just go and look for the codes. So it's very much helpful. It's very easy though, don't worry.
Thank you, Vivek. I have one more question. Actually,
Please.
most of us are from medical coding background.
Okay.
We are very good in healthcare industry. Currently, we are
Mhm.
working as PLs, managers, quality analysts.
Super.
But
Mhm.
if we shift from medical coding field to this HL7 field, do we need to go as freshers? Or as we already working in healthcare field, can we go as experienced people by using our past experience?
That's a very good question. So, US medical or medical coding is again same kind of healthcare information that you need to know, but you know the domain, right?
Yeah.
So, when you work with any vendors or when you work with any project, you should know the business, what that does, right? So, to answer your question, you can definitely go as an experienced guy, but you should know the concept of knowing the HL7, because you should know the use of HL7. You should know why this is used. Because if they ask you something as a countering you just to check whether you have knowledge or not, whatever experience that you're saying, is it matching or not, right? So considering that, they would be validating. So make sure when you showcase yourself as an experienced fellow, you should know the business agenda, at the same time the solution for the same, right? So I have given a short example. ADT has multiple data, right? For example, this one. But I want to make some changes. I don't want to send this entire data, for example. I can
Yes.
still do that. That's what the requirement is. That's what the concept. And this would be covered by BA, PM, or client manager, whoever is who is taking the initiative of getting the connection between developers, projects, and clients. Okay.
Okay.
But yes, you
Okay.
could consider yourself as an experienced fellow into healthcare domain. At the same time, you just need to make sure, like, what all thing I have done, when they ask you to elaborate about the experience that you have recently done, or whatever you have done so far, just make use of
Yeah.
it, right? Accordingly, we can take
Yeah.
that decision. So let's say if I am an interviewer, right, and you are giving an
Yeah.
interview, I will try to ask the question not into the youth healthcare domain, because domain is something that is definitely very important to know. And you guys are blessed. I should not say that, because I am also into healthcare for almost 10 years now. And to be honest, I don't want to leave this domain. The reason being, this domain is ultra legend, at the same time forever green. This would give you a huge hike, not just on the, not just on the monetary side, also into your knowledge side. If you know the business, don't you think you can create your own company? You can create your own business altogether. You are solving something, you need to find a solution out of it. That's what you need to do. that's why that's what every companies are doing nowadays, right? They are finding some solutionist and getting money out of it. Again, this is a higher note to give you just understanding what this does and how you are going to make profit out of it. But yes, in order to understand your your experience, I would first evaluate the actual work that I want from you to be done.
Yes. Sorry to ask more questions. I have two more.
Please go ahead. If you have, don't worry, please go ahead.
Yeah. Where we usually find jobs if we done this course? In India, does we get, or else do we need to go look into another country?
So that's again very good question. You don't need to worry. You don't need to leave your own love country, because India is one of the best country nowadays and they're growing a lot. So you don't have to think about switching from one country to another. But yes, you have multiple scope outside the India. If you want to
Okay.
move abroad, you can happily do that. So one of the countries are UK, US, Australia, New Zealand. You could go for Belgium, which is again a Europe, which is very powerful and very demand in the healthcare market. One of the product company called Illumina, that allows you to, take you as a fresher if you have knowledge into HL7. And yes, in India we have multiple companies nowadays. If you go to LinkedIn and search just HL7 tag, and you search apply, I mean, when you search or hit on search, you're getting a list of opportunity that is available into Indian market. Most of the companies are moving from US to India just to get their cost budget, because in US they have to pay 3 crores in INR for one resource having 2 3 year experience. But in India they could give even 12 lakhs, right? So based on experience that we have banned, right? So let's say if someone is joining a company which is in US but now they are moving to India just to manage the cost, they would hire a folk which has 4 year of experience, right? They will pay 20 lakhs, for example. Again, 20 lakhs is very high, but let's say consider that an average amount, considering that skills and knowledge and the niche skills that you would be carrying. So in India, we have a lot of opportunity, and not just in India, even Dubai is also, introducing this kind of health, and exchange, digital health exchange. Even Qatar. So most of the world is moving digitally. Even India has also initiated. I am also part of India digitization. So I am taking initiative into making that decision, having into conversion into digital things, so that we can do our exchange of data privacy with considering the privacy. And since you all have very much experience in the healthcare, right, we cannot expose the patient information, right? So it is important to understand the HIPAA constraint. So HIPAA is nothing but just the health information protected, privacy, accountability, that basically take care of the patient information first time, last time, and so on and so forth. But the concept here behind this entire logic is just to make sure a smooth transition of data, and with very much encrypted. So this encryption that you see, each HL7 is nothing but encryption data. No one can read it. If you know HL7, then only you'd be able to understand. Again, this is very much clear information that you see. You don't see the real data here. Real data is very much clumsy. It would be very hard to identify that data here. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other
And
question?
what, yeah,
Mhm.
and what are all the job roles we have here? If you see medical coding case, we
Mhm.
started with coder, then
Okay.
quality analyst, then TL, AM, manager, like that. In
Very good.
HL7, what are
Mhm.
all the roles we have? Why I'm asking this is, if you
Mhm.
see, if you take my scenario, I have 19 years of experience in medical coding. Currently,
Lovely.
I'm working as a manager in some company.
Okay.
So if I learn this course, I practice this course for at least 1 year.
Mhm.
Okay, in what role I would be fit into?
That's a very good question. So, considering the experience that you carry into the US healthcare, you could,
Yeah,
you just need to invest. I think, I mean, since you know the business, you know the understanding of data movement, right? You just need to understand the actual data constant that actually carries into HL7, right? So, what you could
yeah,
do, you could engage your experience into this more, precisely HL7, right, or FHIR for
yeah,
almost 6 to 7 months. And I think like 6 to 7 months would be very much high for you if you just go through the basic understanding or basic training by your own side. You should be able to incorporate it. But if you cover to this session, so let's say if I'm giving you a training, for example, that should be
yeah.
sufficient for you. And this would be somewhere around 20, 90 to 20 hours, right? That would be covered end to end. And this would give you a 12 year of experience. You could consider that, because you have 19 years experience already. You know the expertise and how to move words, populate things, and keep adding and all that, right? So you could do that by covering this training session as well. But yes, to precisely answering your question, it would be best if you invest ground level work for almost 3 months. That should be fine. And you can apply for the architect role or solution architect if you want to go for,
Okay,
yeah, if you want to go for technical side. If you want to go for non-tech side, like you just need to know the business and make things churn and all that, then you could go for technical project manager. Okay.
okay,
Or you could also think for senior manager. So this is again very much
okay,
important to understand.
okay.
Okay. And in HL7 role, we have like starting from analyst, right? We have analyst role, we have
Yeah,
senior analyst, and then we have there's multiple roles: senior analyst, lead, then we have senior lead, right? Then we have manager if they want to go for non-tech, mostly on the decision making onto the data set, right? And then we have architecture, senior architecture, solution architect. So depending on the experience, roles, knowledge that they carry, it's important, and they would be assigned with the designation that they are actually looking for. But yes, to answer your question, you could go for either of this option.
Okay. And what are the salary ranges usually companies will offer for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years candidates in India?
Yeah, so for 2 years, you could expect somewhere around, I mean, if they are good into coding as well, so you could consider 8 to 12 lakh for 2 years. That's the range. Okay.
Okay.
And for 4 to 8, you could ask for range almost, let's say 16 to 20 LPA. Okay. And if it's
Okay.
beyond, I mean, let's say if you're jumping into good companies like Roche, right? So if you go for
Okay.
Roche, if you go for Microsoft, if you go for example, InterSystem, which is again a very good company. If you go for what else? If you go for Novartis, very much great company, Novartis. If you go for uh, Teva, again it's a very good company, pharmaceuticals company. If you go for, I mean, there's multiple company. I don't have to think about this, but yeah, there's multiple company. They would give you 22 lakhs per annum for just 3 year experience,
Okay.
for 3 to 4 years experience, plus their stocks, plus benefits of transfer. So let's say you have some gratuity that has to be transferred over, they would give you some benefit, and on top of whatever the interest they would be covering. So again, each company has their own payroll to process, right?
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah.
depending on their policy and procedure, they would allow you. But yeah, as per my experience, I see one of my student, his name is Sachin. I'm proudly saying that he has been landed to Roche. He is just having 3.5 year experience. He's secured 22 lakhs, and you won't believe he is now earning 50 lakhs per month, per annum, because he switched from Roche to Microsoft.
Good to hear you. And uh, does the AI will impact any jobs even in HL7?
Not at all. AI would
Oh,
definitely impact the coding part. Okay. AI would
okay.
definitely impact the coding part. AI would definitely impact the decision part. But in order to understand the specs and make the transition accordingly, because there's a lot of changes that you need to do. Again, HL7 is one of the initial part that you'd be doing. After HL7, we have FHIR. Okay. So if you know this, I don't think so anyone, not in even next 10 to 15 years, could replace you, because
Okay.
healthcare is very much sensible, or I could say a very much, privacy data set that AI would take time to jump into, because AI would take the decision of out of the data. To create that decision, AI has some data to be feeded, right? So if the data is feed, if data is moved, then only the decision would be taken further. So in order to build that data, we are working on it. So we are working as a ladder. So to answer your question, not in the next 10 years, at least when I get retired.
Okay. And does this FHIR is updated version of HL7?
Yes, I mean, you could say it's definitely updated version of HL7, but not exactly a updated version. It's a transition from HL7 to FHIR. Like HL7 is having a multiple version. So we call it as HL7 V.2.x, which is version of 2. Now this has been changed to 2.5, 2.8, 2.10. So now you see 2.5, right? This is again a previous example that I've taken.
Yes.
But the same data has been converted into multiple versions. So this is called HL7. Now, HL7 actually requires a lot of customization. When you work with Fire, you just need to understand one set and you could do the changes accordingly, because that basically works on JSON format, right? So JSON format is nothing but, let's say I'm having a data here. So let's say I'm just using an example. So let's say patient name, right? So patient name is, for example, Kim Han, whatever I'm using. So this is one set of example that you see. So this is how JSON data creates a trend, and it would be easier to move data from one application to another application because that basically works on JSON format, right? And system
Yeah,
or any tool or any system is very much helpful for understand JSON data, and the same time to transform it very much easier. To answer your question, it's not updated version, it's a transition. So companies are moving from HL7 to FHI just to make their life easy, because here the
okay,
burden is very much high. You need to convert three times, right? One,
okay.
2, and 3. But if you have one fire standard here, for example, the same can be triggered here, here, and even here as well. You can store as a file. So this entire thing would be stored in a JSON format into your database, and you can flatten as per your needs. So this would trim your knowledge, or not exactly knowledge, trim your extra leverage that you'd be investing into coding. That's where this has been introduced.
I have one final question.
Please go
Coming to
ahead.
educational background,
Hmm.
most of us are from healthcare, health, life science background.
Okay.
In resume, if we go as freshers, like as experienced candidates, like 3 years, 4 years, like that,
Hmm.
can the interview people look into our educational background? Most
Not
of us
exactly.
done B Pharmacy, M Pharmacy, BSc microbiology, biotechnology, those courses.
That's the power of
So
IT. That's a very good question, Sanjeev. So I
yeah,
got your question. Sorry to cut you off. Don't worry. It would never be asked by either of the company, even not even by the CEO of the company, that you are from BCom and you are expecting. The reason, I will tell you the
yeah,
reason. Whoever is CEO and CTO of the current organization, they maybe they haven't completed their BTech. They have done their BCA and MCA, right? They have done their
yes,
BCom in computer science. So they are taking
yeah,
that initiative. So that's the domain of computer. So computer engineering is nothing but a versatility. So it doesn't look for exact your degree from where you actually worked in. I am basically from mechanical background, to be honest. I have done my engineering in mechanical, but I worked for L&T almost 6 months. Then I shifted back in the year of 2006 or 7 to into IT. So they would also think like, hey, this is a machinery fellow. What he would understand, he would break the laptop, right? They would think that, but not exactly the same. They have actually taken me into consideration, and I am doing great because I have evolved myself. I learn things. So degree doesn't matter. Even if you're doing plain graduation, even someone is doing normal graduation pass course, okay, if he
yeah,
knows, she knows IT, she has been into medical coding, she can leverage that experience into technicality and get a
yeah,
counter offer on top of it. I hope I was
yeah,
able to address your question.
yeah. Thank you, thank you.
Sure.
Certification good. Any advantage for this one?
Yes. So when you get certification from this, first of all, you would understand the use case. Second, you understand the business requirement, how HL7 moves, works, and why it is important. Third, you would be able to crack interview. At the same time, you could showcase this certificate to them. When you're joining, you could showcase that certificate. I've done certificate HL7 from this one. That would give you an extra option. So let's say you are working for a company called any company. Let's take it a company name. Let's say very startup. Let's say, for example, Zepto. Okay. So let's say you're working for a company called Zepto. They don't have anyone who knows HL7, or who knows healthcare even, right? So you come into that company, you have engaged your experience to showcase that information to all of the employees. First, you would be definitely gonna praise by the employees. Second, employer would definitely trust you and think about longer contribution collaboration with you. Third, which is very much important, that gives you a extra skill called technical writer. So technical writer is nothing but when you do your whatever I'm doing, whatever coding, whatever design, the diagram that you see, it's kind of architecture diagram that I've done, right? So if I have to elaborate them into words, that's called technical writer. So you could also opt a designation there as a technical writer, and this you won't believe what's the salary of technical writer across the globe. You won't believe. In US, whoever is having just 3 years experience in US, they are, they're earning 2.5 lakhs dollar. So it's $250,000. That's what they're getting here. But even someone from India coming here knowing Java, Python, ETL, data scientist, they're earning just 1 lakh 5,000 dollar, which is very much lesser than that, almost not even half. So to answer your question, this certification would definitely give you idea and understanding and deep understanding into the healthcare module, not just the healthcare HL7 module, not just the HL7 intersystem module. At the same time, this would also help you to engage yourself into technical part, technicality, that encounter that you'd be facing, the problem that you'd be seeing, that would boost your mind to get into your different role and engage yourself more into technical part. You'd love it, trust me. If you jump into any technical part by understanding the domain, so see, understand, two dots, right? One dot there is a, other dot where is z standing. So you just need to know the process how to propagate there, right? So since you are already experienced fellow, you can leverage that experience, understand the business, use that case. Knowing the dot, it would be easier to understand the code. Once you know the code, you can connect to Z, right? So that's where the concern is. So you just need to focus yourself more into, and definitely whatever, I mean, at least so far I'm getting, you could definitely reach out to HKR team about my feedback or the trainings. And if you want, you can engage with couple of couple of students that has been, you know, uh, getting training from my side, and you would get definitely a feedback positive, hopefully. I hope I was able to
Okay.
address your question.
Yes, yes.
When the regular
Actually,
classes will start.
Yeah, Sanjeev. So I would connect with HKR team and they would connect with you. I would schedule because I'm already engaged with other trainings, right? I will have to find my slots, and
Okay.
definitely from next week onwards, we should definitely kickstart our training on this.
Okay. Thank you. Sampath, you can
okay.
proceed.
Yeah. If a certification, definitely initially we go through any interviews, if I go with the certification or as a experience only, it's fine.
Certification is not required, to be honest. It's just so see. First of all, understand why certification is introduced to us. It's just to sell their business. Okay, even if you go for AWS, they would charge you $160, right, to complete that task. And once you're successful, they will give you just a sheet of paper that has a certification. That doesn't mean
Okay.
that give you the expertise. I know folks who have multiple certification, but they don't know the basics. So if you know
Okay.
if your experience, if your spark says your experience, you don't need certificates, to be honest. You don't need any certification. But yes, if you do the certification, that would give you extra leverage on your career. So let's say I have 20 folks on resume, right? Out of 20 folks, you have 10 folks who is having just normal experience with HL7 and all that information, but 10 folks has certification. So they would focus on that whoever does the resume screening, that's the habit they do in this way. So the screening part is important. So to showcase yourself, you have to showcase the certification. That's what it does. That simply means.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Vivek, so in this course, do we get like any live project support session?
Uh, to be honest, it would be very tough to give you a live project support. The reason being, these are all clinical data, and no one should do that. I mean, I don't think so anyone would be able to do that, Sade. But yes, to take you the real experience, I would definitely give you throughout our session, a task of labs that you would be doing onto your laptop. I would give you some tasks to create the interfaces you would be doing with the integration engines, so you could use them and get a real experience. So it's always same. It's all would be same. I would be giving you a real experience project kind of information that you can utilize the same. And when you do interview, you could tell the same thing. No one would even also give you some tip and tricks in the session
Oh,
that would allow you to crack the interview. Okay, so let's say if you're looking for a new job, for example, and so let's say you are getting, for example, 10 lakhs, just for example, and you have almost 7 years experience, you want to go for 20 lakhs or 22 lakhs, I will give you some boost and takes and tips like how you could do that, how you can mold your uh, you know the experience, and how you can ask for this amount. So this is very costly. This is very limited information that you'd be getting outside the world. No one would give you this information. You would be getting from HKR platform.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. I think we are almost done. If anyone has any question, please feel free to ask HKR team. They should be able to route that question back to me. I would answer that happily. And I will take one last question. If anyone has any, please go ahead.
And how many days of training and how many it will take?
So, Sampath, to answer your question, like it basically has precisely 90 to 20 hours. Okay. And I would encourage everyone to engage themselves into training most precisely. So, I will try to cover most likely weekend and then weekdays, maybe late evening for you guys in India. So, let's say if you guys are looking for 3 days in a week, 4 days in a week, I will try to mold myself accordingly. The reason why I'm doing it, I don't want to push much burden, right? I don't want to push a lot of information in one go. That's the reason I would be taking time, at least most likely 20 days or 3 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, the most we are in this group is working like 12 to 9 shift. Yeah,
Hmm.
IS 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. So
Okay,
is
so early morning should be fine for you all, right?
yeah,
Okay, so early morning would be mine
the same
7.
time that we are
9:30 to 10:30, 9:30, 9 to 10, like that. Fine.
Yeah, so I would go for 1.5 hour or 2 hours, because it would be important to cover the initial part very much in depth. And accordingly, we can definitely change that. So we'll do one thing, Sadev and Sampath. We'll schedule 8:30 to 10:30, if that works.
yeah, that's fine.
And definitely, we would be having a break of 15 minutes throughout this session so that you would get your water, you would get time. So don't worry on that.
Oh, right. It will work.
Definitely. Okay, perfect. Perfect. All right. So, any other questions, Sadev? Anyway, I like your name, Sadev. That's a good name.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Any other
Okay.
question? Perfect. Okay. I think I'm good for today. Thank you so much, guys. And again, I apologize for yesterday, the problem. I couldn't make it. So thank you so much for your patience and listening me. If you have any question, again, you could reach out to HKR team and they would route that to me and I would answer it. Okay. You all have a lovely Sunday. Take care and
Thank
happy
you.
learning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank,
Thank you,
thank you,
Abhay.
Vivek. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thanks for your answers.